What up, though? Welcome back to Lions Nation Unite. I'm your host, Eazy, known as the most handsome host on the channel, Lions Nation Unite. If you guys believe that, smash the like button. If you don't, smash the like button. Either way, we're getting into it today. My top 5 things to look forward to in Detroit Lions training camp. If you guys haven't heard, July 26th is starting out there. I know you season ticket holders will be out there early. I'm going to be out there as well, checking out our 2025-26 Detroit Lions as they try to get the coveted Super Bowl. I want to say something real quick too before we even get into any of that stuff, because I'm sick of just like being on Twitter and just rubbing Packers fans' noses and the fact that they cannot beat Dan Campbell and the NFC North back-to-back defending champions, and they sent me the trophy case full of Super Bowls. And they're a little bit different than the Chicago Bears fans because they do the same stuff, and then Commanders fans stepped in. But like, here's my thing: if you weren't alive to witness a championship yourself, I guess I'm specifically speaking to the Commanders fans that hopped in too. If you weren't alive to watch a championship, you weren't there to celebrate. You weren't there to scream, and the minute the clocks hit zero, you cannot celebrate that. Because if that's the case, I am rolling out my Detroit Lions for NFL championships. 1957, baby. Look, world champs. The Super Bowl's just a rebranding. I mean, let's be real. We've got 4 of those things. If a Bears fan wants to talk to me about the 85 Bears or whatever year that was, all right, my 1957 Lions. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you weren't alive. All right. If you were, talk that ish. If you weren't, zip it, please. But either way, 5 things I'm looking forward to in Detroit Lions training camp. Number 1 is the cornerback battle. And I think some people may hear that and be like, cornerback battle. I mean, we kind of have, like, we know who our stars are going to be, right? Right? Maybe not. To be honest with you, I think things are going to be a lot more interesting than we're intending, I guess is what I should say. Yes, Taron Arnold and the guy you just signed, you just paid some money to, DJ Reed, are your favorites to land the starting cornerback spots. I'm not going to deny that at all whatsoever. But being quite honest with you guys, I think Ennis Rakestraw is going to at least make things interesting. Maybe for just me specifically myself, because I have to report and speak on this stuff every day. But just based on what I saw from him last season in training camp. And shout out to Lions Nation Night, Herman Moore, for getting me there in person too, to have the conversation with him as well. And I was there every day, by the way. I thought he was just as competitive, if not more, than Terry Arnold. And I'm not like I've also been on the side of like Terry Arnold's going to make a huge jump. If you guys watch over on Woodward Sports, shout out what Woodward Heavyweights. We had Allen Robinson on, a guy that's been a Pro Bowl, a guy that's put 120 on Darrell Revis, a guy that practiced every single day with Jalen Ramsey. And we got to ask him about Terry Arnold and his development. And he's like, look, dude, like this kid had the most man coverage snaps in the NFL last year as a rookie. The most, number 1. And not just like on any Joe Schmo team. An example, no offense, but when Jalen Ramsey got to the Jaguars, they were just garbage. They were not a good team. He elevated them there once he elevated as well. No, Terran Arnold played the number 1 most man coverage snaps in meaningful games all the way through, whether it was for the division, whether for just making a play. I mean, the Detroit Lions were Super Bowl. They had Super Bowl expectations last year, and Terran Arnold was a starting quarterback on that team, and he has tons of experience. He's definitely going to take a leap. But again, from what I saw last year out of Venice, just the dog mentality in him, I think he can make things interesting. I really do. And usually I just rip these videos, I record them, and then I put them up. I might have to edit in Dan Campbell speaking on it, but even Dan was like, "Hey, we've got to figure some stuff out. Like, we're going to play the best player, and it's going to fight for that spot." And I think we're blessed with Terry. And by the way, I guess to speak to Ennis specifically, why I think that beyond just what I saw last year, Dan Campbell was asked in the mini camp period, like what players have impressed him in terms of like taking jumps and stuff like that. And Ennis Rakestraw was amongst those names. And beyond that, he went and told the media that we're also moving him to, full time outside. And I think the way you should be perceiving that is like Ennis looks phenomenal outside. I mean, that's just what I'm doing based on what I saw last year and hearing Dan Campbell say that, just simply because This is one of the most versatile organizations in the National Football League. I'm talking like Jason Kabinda moving from linebacker to fullback. Same can be said for Malcolm Rodriguez. We drafted Afonso Melifonwu as a cornerback, then moved him to safety. He was phenomenal at it. We've taken defensive ends and made them offensive linemen. The way Jack Campbell first started getting snaps in the NFL was as a Sam linebacker, a position he's never played in his life. Like, if you can play football, we're going to get you on the field. We're going to figure out how we could use you to the team's best advantage. If they're looking at Ennis Rakestraw, again, mind you, the most versatile organization in the National Football League, are looking at Ennis Rakestraw, and they're like, oh, wow, we got to keep him on the outside. He's doing pretty damn good. I'm sorry. I'm inclined to think that things are going to get interesting in the cornerback room. And I specifically said this, and I know, listen, we do the live show over there, and you have to give certain reactions. Spinny's phenomenal at that. Spinny's phenomenal at bringing the burst of energy, having like the strong opinion. Like, he's very sure of like his opinions a lot of times. But I like to think things through. And they called me crazy off bat because, you got to do that. You got to get the reactions. But thinking things through, right? Taron Arnold played the star position at the University of Alabama. That is the same position Brian Branch played at the University of Alabama. So essentially like a hybrid nickel safety type position. And he was phenomenal at it. I believe he had like 2 interceptions that year, 8 pass breakups, and I don't remember how many starts he had. I don't think it was a full season. But either way, like he's played nickel. He's played safety. That's how he like scratched his name into like the depth chart at Alabama of all places under Nick Saban, right? Not the new look Alabama, no, the Alabama, the best college coach of all time, in my opinion, Nick Saban. So he has that experience. He's also like a top tier athlete, and I just think like if you want to get your best players on the field to make it work, I think there's a I think the way you want to mix and match those things, Terran Arnold at the nickel spot could make sense. And I know some people may be like pissed off at that because you hear it and you're like, damn, man, this is like our first round pick. We drafted to be an outside cornerback. And again, I think Terran will be phenomenal. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a really good football player. I'm just talking about getting your best football players all on the field to be as effective as a team, effective as a defensive unit. I can see a situation where Terran Arnold can move to nickel for you and is phenomenal because he plays it better than Amik Robinson, plays it better than Ennis Rakestraw. And I know we have DJ Reed who played the nickel in the past, but there's a reason why I don't play the nickel anymore. He wasn't great at it. DJ Reed earned his keep in this league by playing outside cornerback. I think Dan Campbell did mention him as a guy, though, they move inside. We'll see how he feels about that. But again, this whole segment is about cornerback competition. We're talking about guys coming in and eating playing time from arguably the most hungry guy on this team, and Amik Robertson. Like it just continues on and on. Like the cornerback competition will be phenomenal, and then you also get to watch these guys go against Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and leads me into my number 2 thing that I'm looking forward to watching in this year's NFL or Detroit Lions training camp, and that is Isaac Tesla. This is not a ranking in terms of like tiered out what I think is most interesting, but that I had to connect that. I was talking about the wide receivers, right? But I'm excited to see Isaac Tesla, especially in pads. It's crazy because I don't remember the acronym they wore in the draft room, but it was basically like to recognize like height, weight, speed, kind of making fun of the people like drafting on traits. They always do that, poke fun. They wore Brad Holmes jerseys this year. They wore Dan Campbell's jerseys in the past. But that's what Isaac Tesla was. Yes, in the tape, he was phenomenal at catching the football. I think he has phenomenal hands. I won't disagree with that either. But yeah, I think he's more, I don't want to say workout warrior. That sounds disrespectful. But the way he caught Brad Holmes' eyes was at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. It was a Shrine Bowl or Senior Bowl. And then he got invited to the Senior Bowl, and he killed it. And it was practice reps. And then he went back and watched the tape, kind of confirmed everything he saw in that practice field. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that in that practice field. That was probably one of the most controversial trades in recent Detroit Lions history, giving up arguably 3 first-rounders. One was a move up, 2 additional third-rounders to go and grab this kid, Isaac Tesla. That's a lot. That's a lot of draft capital for a guy that, we're being honest, outside of the deepest draft communities, nobody was really talking about. So I kind of want to see what Brad Holmes saw. That's something I'm looking forward to. I know they're trying to cross train him on the outside because he's got that build, 6'4", 4.4 speed. That's a guy you want to put in the X position. but a lot of tape you watched on him, he was more so in the slot. So he's going to be a developmental piece. But I just want to see like the traits. I want to see what Brad was teased with because I've seen it in other guys. And now we're going to see with Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver. Number 3 thing I'm looking forward to for the Detroit Lions training camp is the offensive line. And this is one that we're going to have to wait until these guys are in pads, but specifically, obviously, the interior offensive line. I'm talking Tate Ratledge, Miles Frazier, and Mahogany. 3 very young guys in the National Football League. We got a little bit of an experiment with Mahogany last year. I thought he looked phenomenal. I'm a huge Chris Mahogany fan. I just love his mentality to the game on top of like the way he plays the game. Brad Holmes has coined him as the dirt bag. And because that's what you kind of want in an offensive lineman. You want a guy that's not going to quit. You want a guy that's going to get in your head. You want a guy that's going to just be an absolute bully out there, a la Penei Sewell. And we drafted another one of those guys in Tate Ratledge. So I want to see if one, if he's able to do that against the NFL caliber players, which I'm sure he did. He played at Georgia. 2, I want to know who's starting at center, right? Like we got to know. Like you've seen a lot of Tate Ratledge, and maybe it's just cross training and preparing for the future. Obviously, Graham makes the most sense, but like when I'm hearing a lot of these offensive linemen talk, they've been talking about Tate taking majority of the snaps. But given veterans are given like, a little bit of leeway, a little bit of off days in those mini camp settings. But yeah, specifically the interior offensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, because did a thought exercise in Woodward Heavyweights. Shout out 5 to 7 on Woodward Sports, and we did a thought exercise on who was a better defensive line between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. And I got to looking at the Vikings defensive line. I was like, this is not ideal for what we got going on. I mean, they signed Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrove. They had Van Ginkel, who cashed in 12 sacks. Jonathan Gennard, who cashed in 11 sacks last season. Back-to-back double-digit sacks for him, by the way. And then have Dallas Turner in the wing. Our offensive line needs to we gotta losing Frank is a big, I want to say big issue, but it's a big step back in what we were doing before. I guess I need another offensive line, specifically interior offensive line, is going to hold things down. If you guys remember 2 years ago against Green Bay, it was with Sean Gary and Preston and all those guys like on Thanksgiving going up the middle, and Jared Goff had one of his worst games ever, and it was a terrible Thanksgiving. So I know you guys remember it. But yeah, I need that offensive line. I want to see him against Levi Zarike. Unfortunately, you won't see him against the caliber of Lee McNeil, but you got DJ Reed out there as well. DJ Reader, I should say. And then Levi. Levi is another guy I'm looking forward to. Probably my 5th thing I want to look at is Levi Zarike and Tyleek. Probably a good mix between those two. Because who's going to start opposite DJ Reader? Personally, I had Tyleek penciled in there. They're calling him Lean 2.0. That's your starting defensive tackles. But Levi Zarike, man, I feel like he's got something to prove. Like he's another guy that flashed in camp last year. I'm probably leaning the reason why is because of Aiden Hutchinson. So he's back in camp, and we'll see what's going on that defensive line. But probably the number one priority, number one thing I'll be looking for is the offensive line, and just make sure they could keep Jared Goff upright, because we know as much as we love him, he's not uber athletic. All right, our boy JG gets the job done, but he just needs the time to do it. All right, we need that offensive line set to do it. And then the cornerback room, probably number 2. I'm just rambling at this point, but I appreciate you guys for joining me. Smash that like button, be a friend, tell a friend, share this video. Let me know down below, what did I miss? What are you most excited for in Detroit Lions training camp? Again, for me, I went the cornerback battle, the offensive line, depth, and or who's starting, because I think you could pencil in Mahogany. The other 2 you don't even know. I think Miles Frazier is equally in the conversation once he gets some pads on. Obviously, Tate Ratledge probably a favorite to land a starting job as well. But the shuffling of it all, I'm genuinely curious. Number 3 was Isaac Tesla. What did we get here? And then defensive line. Like I said, smash that like button. Until next time, I'm out.